I've made so many episodes talking about the benefits of feminine energy when it comes to being productive and like living a calm, relaxed life and being creative. And I have gotten so many requests from people who want to know how they can increase their feminine energy. I will link the episodes where I talk about the benefits of it below. Like, I made one on how it helps you be more productive, actually, than masculine energy. And then I made another episode on how to live a feminine life. But not really any episodes on how to increase your feminine energy specifically. So, this episode is going to be talking about 5 ways that you can do that. And I'm so excited for it because I really believe that this is going to be one of those episodes that you guys really resonate with because it's practical advice that you can quickly apply to your personal life. So without further ado, we are going to get right into it. We've talked before about the benefits of feminine energy, and so I'll briefly recap. Here's what you want to think about. Feminine energy is like the energy of receiving and the energy of surrender, the energy of softness, the energy of love. And when we go about our lives as women using this feminine energy, it's like flowing with the river instead of swimming up the current. And a lot of women nowadays are in their masculine energy because it's what the mainstream media promotes. It promotes this boss babe, I can do it all mentality. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a job of your own, getting an education, like being financially independent. I think all those things are good. But what I am saying is that operating in this masculine energy all the time is actually incredibly draining to us because it's just not the way our bodies naturally want to operate. Like, even hormonally speaking, like this I can do it all the time 24/7 mentality, that's tailored towards men who have a 24-hour hormonal cycle with less, peaks and troughs throughout the month. But we have the 28-day hormonal cycle. So our energy levels, they dip throughout the month, they rise, and we want to work in a way that accommodates that. We want to live our lives in a way that works with our hormones instead of against them. So when we follow these tips in the episode and we learn how to improve our feminine energy, it's going to make everything in life so much easier because you're going to be more creative. Things are going to be easier for you, like coming up with solutions to problems, fixing relationships. Just makes everything easier when you work with yourself instead of against yourself. And feminine energy is not an energy of weakness. It's an energy of power and like strength in who you are and what you want to do with your life. It's the energy of creation, creating the perfect life that you want to live. Nothing about it is like submissive or weak, despite what the mainstream media kind of portrays it as. I think it's something beautiful, and especially when you think about biblical femininity, like none of the women in the Bible were like too weak or submissive. Like they did really incredible things. Some of them were like out on the battlefield. Like there was that one, I forgot the name of this woman. There was this woman who was like, I think there was an enemy in her tent or something, and she got violent, and she actually like did something good to protect the people she was around. And so like that's an example of, believe it or not, even though she was kind of violent, like femininity in a way that actually is powerful and can do great things. And like, that story in the Bible where Isaac's servant goes out to look for a wife for Isaac, and then Rebecca goes back and forth on this hot day, and she keeps bringing jugs of water for his camel. That's like strong femininity, because it probably wasn't easy to carry those huge jugs of water back and forth, back and forth. But that's a beautiful illustration of the way that it can be powerful. And it's not just like sitting around wearing like pink frilly socks. It's something so much better. So now that that's established, let's get into how you can become more feminine and increase this energy so you can be more productive and creative and all of those wonderful things. And this can actually be a multi-part series because I know there's way more tips I have than just these 5. So we'll say this is part 1 because I can definitely make more of these if you guys like them, for sure. So method number 1, to become more feminine, surrender to God's plan. This one's huge. Surrender is the energy of femininity. Femininity is not like this energy of trying to control and micromanage every single little thing. Even though we can be very organized, it's like masculinity is kind of the opposite. It's like this essence of trying to control everything and trying to make sure everything's like perfect. But we do something similar. It's just a little more spontaneous and surrendered. Because when you think about it, like femininity is the energy of like receiving. Even think about like the way our bodies are designed. Like it shows that the feminine is the one who receives. And so it's this idea that like when we go throughout our lives, we're surrendered to God's plan, and that's when magic unfolds. When you let go of this masculine need to like control everything and be like grinding through all of life's issues and trying to like force everything to be the way you want it to be, that's when magic really unfolds, because you can let God's plan work its magic in your life and come into your life. But otherwise, if you're not surrendered and you're trying to cling on to all these things that you think are God's plan for you or you think are going to make you happy, you're not going to be happy, because you're not really going with the way God wants you to be. You're going with what you think you should be. And part of the magic of femininity is that it reduces your stress hormones. When you surrender this need to have everything be perfect and you surrender to God's plan and you say, hey, I'm just going to receive what God delivers to me, and I'm going to do what I can to make my dream life, but I'm not going to force everything. That's when all these beautiful blessings just show up on your doorstep. And here's a really good illustration of it. You know how they say, like, when you're not looking for love, that's when you find it? Perfect illustration. What's not feminine is going around on every door, like, looking for a husband, like, constantly husband hunting when you go out in public. That's not feminine. You know, the man is supposed to find you because you're the missing rib. You're supposed to be found, and you're supposed to surrender to God's plan and receive when this person does come into your life. So that's tip number 1. Surrender. Become comfortable with saying, oh, I love this line. It's from one of my favorite books, How to Be Loving by Danielle Laporte. You should so read it if you want to become a more feminine person, because a lot of femininity is about loving. But the line goes, she's talking in this chapter about how she learned to surrender, and she talks about moving from the business plan of let my will be done to let thy will be done when she's talking to God. And I just love that line so much. I think about it all the time. And the first time I listened to that chapter, it's like the only time I've ever actually like rewinded an audiobook to listen to a chapter over and over, because it was so good. I don't know what I was on, but this was like in February, and I had been talking to someone. And like, here's something I used to do. I used to like cling on to people really quickly and make up this huge fantasy in my mind of like what they could be in my future, instead of just surrendering to what God wants that person to be in my life. So I was talking to someone, and then it kind of fizzled out. And this was after like, I guess, a long string of disappointments in life, and I was just feeling down. And I was like, honestly, to the point of tears, because I was like, I can't take this anymore. Like, nothing's really working the way I want it to. Like, why can't I just find someone good already? Why can't, I be less stressed about college applications? And I listened to this chapter of the book, and it actually made me cry, because it hit so hard with me. Like, and I surrendered in that moment. This is something that's really helpful if you want to get into your feminine energy. Surrender your desires to God. Say, God, I really want this thing, but I surrender it to you. And if it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. So I prayed that day. I was like, you know what? If I am meant to live my life alone, I'm meant to travel the world and just publish podcast episodes and get a good career, and I'm not meant to meet that person, that's okay. I surrender that desire to you. I still want it really badly, and I want to meet the right person, but I surrender it. It's okay if I don't get it. And, well, what do you know? Actually, like 2 months later, I met the person I'm dating now, who's like everything I ever prayed for. So surrendering your desires is a beautiful way of working with God to really create your dream life and unleash your feminine energy. The next way you can increase your feminine energy is to not try to control your energy to appear feminine. And this is one that so many people get wrong. And when I first heard it, I was like, what? Because I was so guilty of it. Trying to control things, as I said in the last point, that's a very masculine thing. Like, we should be more spontaneous and creative. Like, we just flow with our emotions, what we're feeling, what we want to create. We flow with God's plan. We're not like, we're flowing down the river. We're not like paddling upstream really hard with oars. That's like trying to control everything. We're just flowing with life. And something so many of us are guilty of is we think, I want to be more feminine. Let me do my hair in a way that looks feminine, and let me wear feminine clothing and try to sit in a feminine way and only laugh in a dainty way. That's actually not feminine. Now, if that is actually who you are deep down, that's just like the way you want to be, actually, like naturally, when you're by yourself, if that's who you are, then do that. Like, because the important thing is to be authentic. But if you're trying to force your energy to come across as feminine, that's not feminine. Because there are plenty of women who are just undeniably feminine, but who don't fit into that stereotype at all of like laughing gently, only wearing baby pink, always having their hair curled, having hair bows. There's so many ways to be feminine that don't involve that. And if you try to force that look and you try to force that image and say, I have to be this certain way to be feminine, you're not going to come across as feminine. You're going to come across as very masculine. And I know because I've been there before, like especially my sophomore year of high school, like there are times when I first discovered feminine energy, I so misunderstood it. I thought, okay, I have to wear blouses every day to school and I have to like only talk to guys in this certain way. I can't like laugh at things I'd normally laugh at. I can't like joke around with people because that's not feminine. Feminine energy, one, it's like this energy of authenticity. Nothing is more feminine than like knowing who you are, sticking to that person, and like being in love with that person. That is very feminine when you're in love with your personality and you're in love with your life, and you can just tell that someone's like, they feel at peace with themselves, like they love themselves. That's super feminine, people who are authentic like that. And so honestly, even if you were to show up in like overalls or like have like dirt on your hands because maybe you're like a country girl and your family hunts and you fish, you can still be feminine. Because if you own that energy and you feel like beautiful and strong doing what you're doing, that's feminine. All that matters is that you love who you are and like you exude that energy of feeling confident and beautiful and strong doing whatever you're doing. That is feminine energy. And it does not matter what you look like, what you dress like. It's about the energy that you have in regards to the way you live your life and the way you see yourself. That's where the feminine energy comes from. So if you want to have this feminine energy, don't try to dress up and wear bows, even though that helps me be feminine because I naturally like to dress that way. I naturally like, tops like this with the big poofy sleeves. I love hair bows. I love wearing dresses. That's me. But if that's not you, don't force it. Wear what you want to wear and like own what you want to own. Like if you're interested in masculine hobbies like fishing or hunting, own it. Because there was actually this huge debate on Twitter, and I forgot the name of the girl, but there was this girl with like lip fillers and Botox who wears like, the tight bodycon dresses, and she was calling out this other girl, this country girl, and she was saying, wow, this girl who fishes and wears overalls, she's so unfeminine, she's so unattractive, no man would want to marry her. And it sparked a huge debate on Twitter, and everyone was coming to the country girl's defense and saying, no, that girl is more beautiful and more feminine because she loves the life that she lives. Like, yes, she wears overalls and like holds up big fish, but like she's feminine because she feels like beautiful and strong and like happy living that kind of life. So that's feminine because she's being authentic. And the other girl who had like all the Botox and lip fillers, like the stereotypical femininity, the heavy makeup, she came across as looking super masculine because she was tearing another woman down and trying to like say that you have to fit a certain mold to be feminine. That's not what real femininity is, actually. So that's just kind of an illustration of the way it doesn't really matter what you look like. It's just your energy. So fall in love with your energy, your life, your interests, own it, and feel beautiful doing those things. I feel like even kind of masculine things like running or like lifting weights, you can so do that with a feminine energy. It's kind of something I've gotten really used to doing, something I'm good at doing, is shifting into that feminine energy, because I focus, as cheesy as it sounds, on feeling like beautiful and strong and appreciating my body when I do those things. You know, here's an exercise that really helps, especially if you struggle with self-esteem. And this is going to sound kind of crazy, but I'm including it in here because it works. If you're insecure about your looks or about your personality, just about the way you are, for looks, one, I want you to go to a mirror, look at yourself in the mirror. This is going to be kind of uncomfortable at first, but imagine you're looking at yourself from the perspective and from the mind of someone who is like deeply in love with you. So maybe you don't have a boyfriend, and that's fine, but imagine you're someone, maybe your future husband is looking at you and you're in his mind, and try to see yourself the way they would see you. Try to see your face the way they would see it. So like, imagine their inner dialogue, like, wow, her eyes are so pretty. I love the way her nose fits her face so perfectly. Or I love the tone of her skin. I love like the way her body curves. I love the way her legs look strong. Think about yourself from that perspective. I know that sounds crazy and kind of narcissistic, but it's actually a beautiful way you can imagine yourself the way God wants you to imagine yourself. Because you're beautiful, like you're God's creation, and you should see yourself as beautiful because God took his time making you. So imagine yourself from the perspective of someone who's like so in love with you. And it really does help me. Like the other day, I was just being insecure about something really small. And so I did this little mirror exercise, and then I was like, this is so silly. Like, if I was in love with myself, I wouldn't even think twice about this little thing I was being insecure about. Like, I would not care. And in this way, like, this exercise is super helpful. So, yeah, that's point number 2. Do not try to control your energy to appear feminine. Just fall in love with who you are, own it, be authentic. Point number 3, and I'm just realizing now I have so many more of those. There has to be like a part 2 on this because I just have so many good ideas. But anyway, point number 3 is empathy in a real way. Put yourself in others' shoes. That is feminine, because feminine energy, it's this soft, loving energy. It's like you accept everyone, you love everyone, like you want to be connected to other people. Like, femininity, it's definitely this energy of connection and like loving other people for who they are. And empathy is a huge thing of that. There's nothing more unfeminine than a woman who is like entitled and bratty and like in a relationship, especially someone who just is all about themselves only and has no empathy for the man. It does not matter if you are like the most drop-dead gorgeous woman on the planet and you have like this beautiful face of makeup, beautiful feminine clothes, hair bows. If you're a brat and if you don't empathize with people and actually care about people, you're not going to come across as feminine. You're going to come across as like very spoiled and prissy. Feminine energy is something beautiful. Like, it warms your heart when you're around someone who's genuinely feminine. And that's because of their empathy. Feminine people just have this wonderful ability to make you feel seen. And that's because they practice empathy. And this real empathy, it's not just like, you know, faking empathy to make people think that you care. It's like in everything you do, you consider how it affects other people. And not in a people-pleasing way, but in the sense that, like, with small things, like, let's say you want to turn on some music, like, you think, okay, I want to make sure it's not too loud because I want to make sure that everyone around me can focus. Or, like, let's say you're thinking of where to go for dinner, and let's say you usually pick the dinner place. Like, empathy is putting yourself, let's say, in your boyfriend's shoes and saying, like, wow, like, he always lets me pick. What can I do to make him feel special? This is such a huge mindset shift. I'm about to blow your mind. The key to feminine energy and honestly unlocking like really successful relationships in all areas of life, it's shifting from this idea of what can they do for me, how can they love me, to what can I do for them, how can I love them? Because so many of us are so focused only on what other people can do for us. We just hyperfixate on whether other people are loving us well. So like if they're writing long enough text messages, if they're texting us consistently enough, if they buy us flowers like multiple times a week. And yes, all of those things are important. You should choose someone who loves you. But also think about what you can do to make them feel loved. Because I guarantee when you're thinking about this and when you ask yourself, what can I do to make someone else feel loved and cared about, that energy is often reciprocated right back to you. So you don't have to worry with the right people. You don't have to worry that doing that is going to drive them away. Only avoidant attachment styles are going to run when you show them love. And I've talked about this in other episodes. Read up on attachment styles, you'll understand what I mean. But a healthy, secure person, they're going to reciprocate that love. So show people empathy and always be thinking about like, what can I do to make these people around me feel loved? And I was reading this book called The Power of Surrender in the car yesterday, actually. And it has this exercise where it's talking about how you can use your intuition to connect to other people. And I thought that that's such a cool idea because you can use it to kind of use your intuition to see what other people need. So I practice this a lot. Like I close my eyes, wipe my mind, I think of the person, and then any images or thoughts that pop to my mind, I take note of. I ask myself, so I guide it with the question, how can I better show this person love? What does this person need right now? And I pray to God, I say, God, reveal to me ways that I can better serve them in their life and show them love. And usually something pops up. And if something pops up, like allow them to trust you more easily or like communicate better, do it. Just try, because usually your intuition is right and you're going to improve your relationships that way. So empathy is a huge part of being a feminine woman who is easy to love. Okay, now number 4 does go into physical appearance. A way you can be feminine is take care of your appearance, like having your nails done, wearing cute outfits that make you feel beautiful. And then this one's kind of controversial, and I know I'm being a hypocrite right now, but I seriously recommend you fall in love with your natural beauty by quitting makeup for a while. So first I'm going to talk about makeup because that's like the biggest thing. And I am wearing makeup in this episode, like to be transparent. I just started wearing makeup in my podcast episodes again because October I quit makeup cold turkey. And then in like kind of December and February, I was only wearing like lip color in my episodes. Now I'm wearing like just, concealer, lip color, mascara, because for me, I'm at a point now where I feel like I wear makeup just for special occasions and like when I feel like something's important and I want to present my best self. So like this podcast, I think it helps me reach people better when I look like presentable and friendly. And I think that makeup can help with that. So that's why I'm wearing it here. But I want to explain to you what quitting makeup does. And I'm so thankful I did it because my perspective on makeup and my opinion of myself and my natural face is forever changed. I noticed in October I was so insecure about like the way I looked without mascara. And I made a whole podcast episode on this, by the way. Just check my YouTube channel or Spotify. It's called I Quit Makeup for 60 Days or something. Here's what I learned. So I noticed I was insecure without mascara. And so I said one day, okay, What if I just don't wear it? And I hated the way I looked for the first few days. I was like, ugh, like I don't even look alive. And also back then, I was really stressed, so I had a lot of acne, like really bad, painful acne. And so quitting makeup cold turkey was so hard. But I found after 2 weeks, I started to like the way I looked without makeup. And all of a sudden, I didn't feel like I needed it anymore. In fact, sometimes I'd get bored and I'd just put on mascara just for the fun of it, even though I wouldn't wear it out in public because I was still quitting makeup. And I didn't even like the way I looked with it. I thought it looked weird and unnatural because I fell in love with my natural eyelashes and my natural face. And when you do that, when you quit makeup just for like 2 weeks, just try it, you'll fall in love with your natural face. And there's nothing more feminine than being confident and like loving the way that you look naturally, both loving like your body, like every body part you have, appreciating it and loving it and seeing it as something special God gave you, and loving your face, your natural face. That's super feminine. And I'm so glad that I quit makeup for that period of time. And though I am reintroducing it now, so like actually, it's just within this month I've started to wear it again. Like, if I have a date, like, actually, when my boyfriend came to Knoxville, this is so unfortunate. Maybe I was stressed, but like, I started to break out. And that's really unfortunate because normally my skin, not bad. Like, it really fixed itself in April because it used to be so bad, inflamed, like, oh, horrible acne. It fixed itself, and then sometimes when I get stressed, I have those little breakouts. So I did wear makeup when he came, and I wore mascara just because it's important to me. Like, if it makes me feel like more beautiful to wear it a certain time, I will. This isn't something about like judgment or like trying to say you have to quit makeup forever, because I don't think that's very spiritually mature to say, I'm never wearing it again, and if I do wear it again, it's a sign of weakness and insecurity. For me, now it's just a journey of, okay, I like my natural face, but sometimes I just want that extra boost of wearing makeup. I want to feel like extra put together, and I want to feel like extra feminine today, so I'll wear it. So I wore it when my boyfriend came to town, and I also have started wearing it for my podcast episodes because I feel like I want to put my best foot forward. And I won't wear it for all of them, I bet, but it does help me because I know that, when I make these episodes, if I put my best foot forward, I can bring more people to the podcast, and I can really I think it helps with professionalism. Sometimes when you have makeup on, it builds your credibility. Because it makes you look put together. So that's why I think it's a good idea for the episodes to have it on. But I will say, this point about becoming more feminine by quitting makeup and stuff, or just wearing minimal makeup, I think it's huge, actually. I want to tell you that my senior year of high school, near the end, the spring semester, I don't know what happened. I think it's because I shifted my energy and I was more genuinely feminine and loving and soft. I had so many options all of a sudden. I had such a drought junior year in terms of dating. I think because I was so in my masculine energy and working hard. And I'm glad that God didn't distract me with guys. But all of a sudden, all these guys liked me. I want you to know that every single first date I went on, no makeup. And I always got a second date. So it's not about the way that you look. It's about your personality and your feminine energy and your softness. So if I cannot wear makeup on all of those first dates and still get seconds, you don't have to wear makeup to feel beautiful. And in fact, with my boyfriend now, when I first met him, the first time I met him, because he lives in Florida, actually, I live in Tennessee, and we started talking, when we were still in 2 separate states. For college, I'm moving to Florida, so we'll be in the same state. But the first time we met, because we'd been talking, long distance for a while, we weren't dating yet, but I was going to Florida for college orientations, and so we were like, okay, it's time that we meet. Because we had just such a strong connection and honestly surreal, completely surreal. He was everything I've ever prayed for. And he feels similarly about me. It's just really beautiful. God definitely put us in each other's paths for a reason. There's no way it is just coincidence. But anyway, so I went down to meet him, no makeup, and that was the first time meeting him. Like, if I were insecure, like from an insecure perspective, like I could have been caking it on, like, oh, I hope he sees only the best version of me. I don't want him to see any flaws. No, I showed up with no mascara. We went outside on a bright sunny day. I know I had like some acne, some inflammation. Does not matter. Like, we started dating that day. It does not matter. What matters is your energy and how at peace you feel with yourself, because that's feminine. When you love your energy, you love your natural face. What does help me feel feminine? I like getting my nails done. It's just a little joy I have. I can cover the cost because I tutor, so I make like a fair amount of money from that. You can also do it yourself. There are kits on Amazon, but personally, it makes me feel more put together. I love having my nails done. Right now they're blue, but usually I love a good French tip or just white because it matches with everything. So I recommend. And then cute outfits. Wear whatever makes you feel like feminine and beautiful. As I said, for some people, that's overalls. For other people, it's cute dresses and frilly skirts and bows. Just wear whatever makes you feel confident and beautiful. And then here's the final and arguably most important point. Live with the heart instead of the ego. Soften and ask how you can bring more love to even bad situations because you understand love is what actually fixes things. This is so huge. I can't overstate this. That's how you become feminine. That's how you have this feminine, soft energy that makes people want to be around you. Even when you're working, for example, think, how can I bring love to what I'm working on? Like, a meal cooked with love is more special than a meal made with a resentful heart. And I bet you can taste the difference. A school assignment done with love makes a difference. And you can tell if an essay is written in a good mood or a bad mood. And I will tell you this because this is the best example of how feminine energy and this loving energy seriously works out. When I was applying for colleges, and I will say I have like a 36 ACT score, like perfect PSAT score, like 5s on I think all but one of my APs. Like, I'm a smart person, I will admit it. I'm not going to pretend like this was all the magic of loving energy. But, compared to some of the other people applying to these schools, like colleges, people who are like building coral reefs in the Philippines, people who have started huge nonprofits, like, it's really competitive nowadays. And even though I have good test scores and like good scores on all my AP exams, still like that's not enough when it comes to college applications. The essays really make a huge difference. And so in my essays, every single college essay, this is so shocking. People take months to write their essays, actual months, because they drill over them multiple times. They check them with teachers, friends. They make sure it's perfect. I didn't do that. Every single essay, this is kind of crazy, and maybe I'll make a video about my college essays, but every single essay that I did, I wrote in like 1 to 2 hours. My Common App essay, I had a few drafts of it, and each one took me 2 hours to write. I did not spend longer than that on any of the essays, and I did not, honestly, I only got my mom to review like 1 or 2 of them, which is still helpful, but those essays I wrote quickly and I wrote from a place of love. And despite the fact I was competing against people who literally, like, I know people in my high school and the neighboring high schools who were doing calculus in freshman year, like people who did every single club under the sun, every extracurricular, piano competitions, chess competitions, math competitions, people who were doing all of those incredible things, who I beat in the college admissions game because I did everything from a place of authenticity and love when I wrote those essays. And my extracurriculars, I was president of the cybersecurity club, I did Key Club, I did student government, what else? I know I did other things. I can't even think of them, that's so sad. No, I did Girls Who Code, which was like a coding club, and I did a few other things. The main thing actually was this podcast I started, and my online writing career. And those are not typical academic activities that you would think the college admissions committee would be happy about. Because yes, it's like, it's good, but it's not like I'm spending time like in the lab every day. Like I was making podcast episodes and publishing TikToks about self-improvement. I did not think that that was going to be like good enough. I got into every college I applied to, every single one. Despite the fact I only spent 2 hours max on every essay, and that my extracurriculars were not solving world hunger. And I applied to some selective ones like NYU, like 8% acceptance rate or something. Rice University, super selective. Georgia Tech out of state for computer science, like 9% acceptance rate. And then the other big one, the biggest one that shocked everyone, like everyone was like, what? Vanderbilt, which is a school in Tennessee. It's like the Ivy League of Tennessee. It is so prestigious, so expensive, super low acceptance rate, like 6%. I got a full ride to Vanderbilt. Not only did I get in, which I did not expect at all, they gave me the Cornelius Vanderbilt Scholarship, which is literally like a full ride to Vanderbilt. And it's only given to like, I think they only give scholarships to like 150 students. And I know because my mom talked to the scholarship officer when we went to tour it after I won. I was the only person who got it like in my area. The only person, which shocks me because the neighboring school I went to, the school that neighbored the one I went to, it's way nicer. They had way nicer academics. There's so many smart people who went there. And like these people, as I said, doing calculus freshman year, like doing all of these programming competitions, doing all of these summer internships, like at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and still they chose me for it. Because the essays that I wrote, they were from the heart. They were about like my podcast, they were about my personal growth. And there was one I wrote for Rice University, which is super selective school, like 8% acceptance rate. I didn't even think I could get into any of these, to be honest, because I was like, yeah, I'm smart, but not like curing cancer smart. I wrote that essay actually about a conversation I had with someone in one of my classes at school. There was this boy I talked to, I had this conversation with we were just joking around about recipes or something, and then he mentioned something about like how when he goes shopping with his dad, he has to like double check the price of everything he puts in the cart. And for me, as someone who like, you know, my parents have enough money to spend a lot on groceries, made me realize like, oh my gosh, like I'm so privileged to not have to think about those kinds of things. And so that's crazy. For Rice University, I wrote an essay about just a random guy I had a conversation with. And I even kind of liked him at the time. Like, that's crazy. I wrote an essay about a guy that I liked at the time. And I got into Rice University because it came from the heart. And I wrote it in 1 hour too, which is even more crazy. And the final thing that'll really have you believing, like, you know, when you write with the heart, when you do anything with the heart, it has crazy results. The final thing, I became a presidential scholar, which if you don't know, only 161 students in the United States are chosen every year to be a presidential scholar. Like, they're chosen by the U.S. Department of Education. And when I was a freshman, I knew a presidential scholar. I actually worked for him because he founded a startup company, and I was just a freshman. He was like a rising freshman in college, but I was his marketing manager. And I remember thinking, gee, he must be so smart. I could never be a presidential scholar. And after I got a 36 on the ACT, I got an email saying like, you're a candidate to be a scholar. And I was like, whatever, I'm not going to get it. Because I was like, you know, compared to all the students in the nation, only 161 scholars, that's like beyond Ivy League acceptance rate. That's way below. So I was like, I don't even think I could get into an Ivy League college, let alone be one of the 161 people in the nation chosen to be a scholar. But I filled out the application anyway, and the hilarious thing is I also wrote every single essay in there in like under an hour. And it was a long application. I could barely motivate myself to do it, but I did it anyway, and I didn't overthink it. I didn't try hard to like think of the perfect topic. Thought of the first thing that came to mind for every single one of them, wrote it with love, wrote it with feminine energy straight from the heart. I got it. They chose me, which is shocking because the other girl from my school, who was also a candidate, she's so smart. And I remember sitting behind her in calculus sometimes being like, I can never be that smart. Like, she picks up on everything so fast. She's so smart, and like she just knows everything because she has so much random knowledge. And yet I still got the scholar thing, which was just such a big surprise to me. And I think it's because they could feel the heart energy when I was writing all of my college essays, my scholarship essays. That's what matters. And so I urge you again, even though this thing about college applications is long, think about how you can bring love to every situation. As I said, work. Whatever you're doing, do it with love. And I think about this Bible verse that says something along the lines of, whatever you do, do it as if you're doing it for your Father in heaven. So bring that love to whatever you're working on. I swear your results will be beautiful and so much better. Your work will resonate with people. It's about the love, the loving energy that you have. And finally, when it comes to conflict or issues, how can you bring love to the situation? Ask yourself that. It's so easy to want to react with ego instead of heart, and this whole feminine shift is about going for heart instead of ego. I love this quote. I saw it from this account I follow on Instagram, Megan Bay. I don't love everything she posts in terms of modesty, but I will say she has some really good like content, some really good ideas. She was saying how when it comes to showing other people love, when you're intimidated by that idea and your ego's saying like, hey, no, be cold, be important, like don't show them full love, she asks herself, do I want to drop to the level of their fear because I'm afraid of being judged? Or do I want to rise to the level of love and show them what is possible? And I love that line because that's what feminine energy is. Instead of reacting in situations with anger, react with compassion and love, especially in arguments. You're going to change people's lives because it's rare when you really see that modeled, like that agape, unconditional love. And when you show that kind of love that God shows you to other people, you're going to be feminine and people are going to want to be around you and you're going to change lives. So without further ado, that concludes this episode. Now I really want to make more episodes on ways you can increase your feminine energy. I hope this was helpful. I hope you love it. And if you want to keep up with the podcast, follow the podcast at Personal Growth Project Official. And let's see, you can also subscribe to my newsletter, newsletter.abigaillang.com. You can become a paid subscriber if you really love me and you want to help me out. You can access all of my old posts if you pay maybe like $5 a month. It's not that much money, but it helps me out so much because I need to get like new equipment because I'm taking this podcast to college. And yeah, so if you want to help me out, that would be amazing. I'll also try to put my Buy Me a Coffee link below if you just want to give me a little donation, help me out before I move to college, because I do need a nicer laptop to edit my videos because I'm using a hand-me-down 2016 laptop from my brother that has about a 30-minute battery life. So any donations would be appreciated, but I'm just glad you're here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next week's episode.